The next policy point is that SAE Level 2, 2+3 vehicles are actually a huge issue. They're not being sufficiently addressed by legislatures either at the state or the federal level. These vehicles are already deployed on roads in large quantities, and we're seeing fatalities and injuries due to driver complacency. The idea is when you turn on automated steering, the human driver has trouble paying attention. We've known this kind of thing is a problem for cars since the 90s. We've known that people are bad at paying attention to boring situations since the 1940s. This is not something that's fixed by telling the driver to pay attention. This is fundamental to human nature. People are really bad at monitoring boring things, and that's not going to change. People aren't going to change. Now, there's technology such as driver monitoring that may help with that, but simply telling drivers to get better and blaming drivers for crashes will not stop the crashes from happening. And what do we do in regulation? Well, basically nothing. Every once in a while, there's a recall for something that's really egregious, but there's no regulations requiring these systems to be things that can be supervised by an ordinary human driver with good outcomes. And we're seeing the consequences. In 2023, the stakes are being increased with the advent of so-called Level 3 vehicles. These are ones where the driver is told by the manufacturer, you know what, it's okay to look away from the road once you've pressed the on button and the system is engaged. So this is, in this case, it's a low-speed traffic jam pilot, but Level 3 in general is the driver does not have to pay attention at all while the feature is activated, but they have to be there to take over if the feature says, hey, I need you to take over now. And what can the driver be doing? Well, here's a picture. This is a real thing that Mercedes-Benz is selling the game of Tetris to play on the dashboard. So you can actually play Tetris on the dashboard. And this is their marketing video of someone playing Tetris on the dashboard while the car is driving itself. Well, if that works and it's safe, that's really cool. It's really great. But the question is, what's the criminal liability? If this vehicle, that driver playing a game on the dashboard, hits and kills someone. Now, it's a highway. They're not supposed to be people, but people show up on highways. There's a crash scene. There's all sorts of things that happen. What if this vehicle hits an emergency responder or a pedestrian and kills them? Who goes to jail? Who's liable? Well, that's an interesting question, and it's not resolved. Now, Mercedes-Benz says, oh, we take responsibility for the correct performance of our system. But when push comes to shove and the reporters ask them for a written statement on that, what you get back is they're talking about product liability. Oh, we'll stand behind our product liability, but their statements don't touch on criminal liability or even tort law, what happens in the wrongful death lawsuit. And so at least in some states, the vehicle operator or the vehicle owner can be on the hook for these potentially very serious issues, and it's a very unclear area of law right now. That should be fixed before this technology deploys, because who wants to be the driver who serves as the poster child for that kind of, I don't know what's going to happen, let's find out. There needs to be a clear duty of responsibility for the computer driver. There needs to be a concept of a computer driver that's in charge of the car when the human's been told it's okay not to look at the road. And when the computer's driving, the manufacturer should be responsible for tort law and for criminal law beyond product liability. There needs to be a defined non-zero safe harbor transition time. So if the computer says, hey, you got the ball now, and the driver looks up and they're about to hit someone, that's not automatically the driver's fault. So there needs to be several second period, perhaps 10 seconds, where the driver is not at fault if they're trying to get back into control of the vehicle because the vehicle told them to do so. And it should be also the case that liability attaches to the manufacturer if there's an inadequate driver monitor. People have trouble paying attention, the driver monitor should enforce the required level of attention. If you have driver monitoring theater or an inadequate driver monitor and the person's not paying attention, the manufacturer needs to have some role in that. You can't just blame the person, because blaming the person won't stop the next crash. I have a detailed proposal for state regulation on this, co-authored with Professor Wyden from University of Miami School of Law, and those details are pointed to on a slide at the end of this presentation.